You really are moving away from the idea of delegation, which is this idea of just sending the work over to someone and they fully handle it, to more of a collaborative process where you're working with the person.
I don't think you can send the work over to anybody, like, ever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is.
It doesn't matter who it is. Like, even like my co-founders, right? Think about the things that, like, we work on to kind of together. I believe at least in this decade, in the 2020s, that it's going to be just a force multiplier for people to get more shit done. I believe everybody that's trying to accomplish a lot could really use an assistant. Apple early on was like, oh, everybody's gonna have a PC. And they're like, what are these nerds in Silicon Valley with these spreadsheets talking about everybody having their own personal computer? And now everybody spends most of their time on their phone, their PC, their little handheld personal computer. I think it's going to be the same thing like in 30 years, like when it comes to like assistants. I really believe that everybody's going to have a personal assistant.
All right, I am here with a very close friend of mine, Aaron Kemmer. Aaron is the co-founder of the following companies. Magic. Magic is the best way to get work done. Magic hires, screens, and matches you with the top 1% of executive assistants working online right now. Magic also has a 24/7 on-demand service over chat. Just text Magic what you need to get done, and Magic will have a team on demand who will get it done for you. He's also the co-founder of Made in Space, which put the first 3D printer on the International Space Station, and which was acquired by Redwire in 2020. He's also the co-founder of Century Health. They make health diagnostics technology, and their goal is to have humans live past 100. He's also the co-founder of Max Space. They are building really amazing, large inflatable habitats for space stations. So Aaron is an incredible entrepreneur and the one I admire personally working with him. I'm a co-founder with him at Magic, and he's the best delegator that I know, being able to do so much. He also has a personal life, so to balance all of that together requires him to have a team to help him out. So I'm here to ask him questions about how he delegates, and I would love to learn more about that. So I guess I want to start by asking, do you think that delegation is a skill you can learn, or do you think it's a trait that you're born with?
Yeah, thank you, David. Thanks for chatting today. One of my good friends. All right, so delegation for me is definitely a skill. It's something that, I think I've been trying to hone over the last 20 years. I actually think I naturally wasn't that good at it. I think early on in my life, I was more introverted. And through earlier stuff in my career, earlier stuff I did in my life, I got better and better. So like, I first started playing like video games as a kid, and I would play a team game called Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike was a fun game. It's a 5v5, and then you often have a coach, and you learn how to kind of coordinate, with your team members. And so delegation, I think a lot is a lot like leading a team in many ways. And then you also kind of need to have a little bit of extroversion and a little bit of extrovert part of you. So maybe there's some personality traits that help you hone the skills. And so I was very, like I said, very introverted until I got like one of my first jobs as a sales rep selling magazines over the phone, as a kid. I was like 16 when that happened. And then I became like a server where I worked in restaurants where you had to kind of go out and coordinate. And you're also coordinating with teams. And so I think really early on in my career, I learned these traits that would help you communicate and to delegate. And so I think I think it's a skill that you can hone. And the skills that I would start with is leading, communication, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
A lot of people think that they're good at teamwork. And if you say the word teamwork, they understand that. They say, oh yeah, I'm a good, team player. I love teamwork. But then when you say the word delegation, they, feel like I can't do it, or like I don't have anything to delegate. So I wonder what the discrepancy is there, because everyone feels like they're, working in a team. But, when you say, hey, here's someone who's working for you that can do anything that you're hiring them for. And they go, hey, well, I have nothing to delegate to them. So what do you think the discrepancy is there?
Oh man, that's okay. So I think unless you have no goals, there's always a place you can pull in somebody for help. Really, like having a team, like in the workplace or delegating work. It's all about like trying to maximize your own productivity, right? And so whether it's you want to write a book, right? You could delegate a lot of tasks there. You could delegate helping you research the book. You could delegate looking at comparative books. You could delegate the editing of the book, the finding the illustrations of the book. So I think like every task or project, there's components that people can help with. It's less like just thinking of less as the word delegation, but it's more like where can other people jump in and help with this project is kind of how I think about it. So if you have any goals at all, there's definitely places where you could pull in and kind of get help, kind of from somebody else.
I like that as a word too. That's better than delegation. Is getting help. One thing that people say,
I never think of it as delegating.
Oh, okay,
even though I do it all the time. I don't ever like think, oh, I'm delegating this task. I'm like, okay, I'm getting help with this.
Okay,
this
well,
project.
we can ban that word moving forward. We can call it getting help.
Yeah.
So when some people they don't get the help they need, then because they think, well, it's going to take more time asking someone else to do it. If they get it wrong, I have to go and do it again. Or they think, oh, they're gonna do it wrong. They're worried that they're not going to do it, as well as if they did it themselves. You hear this when people say, it's just going to be faster for me to do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your counter to that? Because it's something I hear from a lot of different people, really smart people too. I think almost the smarter or more successful you are, the more confident you're going to be in your own ability. And you might start nitpicking other people's results.
Yeah.
So it's harder to ask for help if you feel like you could do it better on your own.
Yeah, no, I think that's often the case. So I think number one, that could mean you're not getting the right help. Let's if you hire somebody to help you edit your book, for instance, but they're just their grammar and editing skills are not that good. Yeah, it's probably not going to be as kind of helpful. But assuming like the baseline skills are there, then then it's going to come down to like the trade-off of course you can't hand off the entire project. I think this is often where people make mistakes with like delegating, especially if let's say you're delegating to like an executive assistant or your VA, but just in teams in general. It's not like you can usually just say go complete this entire project for me and then I'll come back. Like go write that entire book for me and then and then I come back and it's kind of done. That's the fantasy. Honestly, it's the fantasy that one day I hope Magic will be able to complete, where it's like, hey, Magic, one day build us the city on the moon, and then the city on the moon is kind of built. I don't have to like work on that or think about that. But like that just doesn't work. And so no matter what kind of project you're doing, you're going to need to still spend, some of your time. So I wouldn't ever look at getting help or delegating as like a complete handoff. But let's say the book, would have taken you, let's be generous and say only 1,000 hours. Okay, well now that you got help, maybe you get an editor or a researcher. Maybe let's say you get a researcher. Maybe it only takes you 500 hours. Or maybe it even still takes you 800 hours. But you still saved 200 hours there by having somebody help you kind of with the research. And I think this goes for like smaller tasks as well. Like, you could, do the bookkeeping of all your receipts, or you could hand that off. And when you hand it off, you're still going to need to spot check it and look at it. And maybe you only save half the time and you still have to do it. And then maybe in the beginning, there's almost like this chart where you're actually like, how much time are you saving by handing off? You can imagine a chart where it's like you have 100%. You're actually going above that in the very beginning. You're probably spending 150% because you're having to teach somebody how to do this task. And at that point, that's when you like, all right, this is not worth my time because I'm wasting time teaching somebody. But if you just wait like a month or two, then it goes down to like, let's say 30%. And so it's like this high upfront time and then, lower like kind of like long-term time.
So you're investing in the people that
100%,
that are working with you.
Yes. Yeah. It's investing in the people. It's like man, there's this I heard at Google one of the things they say is when they bring on a new engineer for the first year, it takes an entire year to get them to be the point where it's productive inside Google, the organization. I don't know how true it is, but maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's even longer. But there's definitely this upfront time when it comes to adding on employees, getting an executive assistant, any role that you hire for, adding new team members, adding co-founders to your business, adding partners, where you're going to be spending a lot of upfront time, and with the hope that you're going to get an ROI on that in the long term. And if you do it right, this is how you build like really exciting organizations, big ones, is where you have compounding returns, right? Like if you look at a Google, a Microsoft, an Apple, a Tesla, these are just teams and teams of people that have gotten good at certain tasks, and now you're getting compounding results, kind of on there.
And you have a team both at the companies that you founded and in your personal life. You have that. How do you think about dividing your time between those teams? So you have a personal team, and then you have different teams at Magic, at Century Health, at MaxSpace. So
yeah. I think at MaidenSpace, before we sold the company, we were up to a little over 100 people. I think Magic, we've got 300 or 400, and then we've got several thousand, executive assistants and people also training our AI algorithms. And then Century Health and MaxSpace are a little bit smaller. I think Century Health is got about 20 to 30 people. And then MaxSpace is about a dozen, right? It's a smaller startup, and it's kind of like, in that order of how old the companies are. You kind of want to add, you don't want to just jump straight to like adding 50 people to a team. But in my personal life, man, I have at least like a half a dozen assistants. So I'm a very big power user of Magic. I need as much help as I can humanly get. And sometimes even then it's not enough because I travel a lot and I've got a lot kind of going on. I was a little late here today because my car broke down, the brakes stopped working, and my team was like scrambling to get like a tow truck and figure all that out so I could still make it kind of on time. I try to I don't really think too much of like how do I balance the time, unless it's more of just like a goal driven approach of like what am I trying to accomplish today or this week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for you, the goals are primary, and then what needs to get done and who needs to do it.
That's right.
Comes from that.
It's if I'm prioritizing at all, it's prioritizing the goals, like what's needed like right now.
Okay. How many goals would you say you have in a given moment?
At a given moment, or just overall?
Just overall, I guess.
Man, I don't
10, 20, 100.
I don't know. At Magic, one of our team members, employees, he got me a T-shirt once that said, "Goal Digger."
Yeah,
Ashe, remember? And then it kind of stuck for a while. People called me the Goal Digger because I dig big goals. I'm always saying like, "Here's the goal," coming up with new goals. At this point, my goals have goals. Like if you think about like at Magic, we use OKRs, objectives and key results, a lot. We have some high level company OKRs, but then there's like a nest of hundreds that everybody uses, goals that kind of come out of that. So, overall, if you had to say, probably hundreds at a minimum, probably thousands of goals. I'm always thinking, it'd be cool to do that or accomplish this. And sometimes the goals shift based on, reality. I think when I first started working in space, I was like, it'd be so cool in my lifetime just to see humanity all throughout the solar system. Moons of Jupiter, moons of Saturn, maybe even all the way out to Pluto. After working in the space industry for like over 10 years, I was like, okay, let's shift that goal down just to, let's just have one small city on the moon before I die. That's probably what's doable in my lifetime. And I'm going to like try hard to like at least maintain that. That's probably like the gold level goal for my life. Whereas my bronze goal, I also think of goals in like bronze, silver, gold, which me, and we can talk a little about like how that's structured. But like, my bronze goal for my life is that, okay, well, if there's not a city on the moon, which is the gold, at least can I like go to space?
People can get enthused about this and say, hey, I'm going to hire someone. I have a goal that I want to get done. I go out, I hire an executive assistant full-time working with me. They have a list of things that they want to get done. The assistant gets it done maybe after a month or 2 months. Then they come back and say, hey, I ran out of things to delegate. This is a common pattern I've seen. So what would you say to people that are newer to this, maybe that they want to give it a try, but they don't exactly have, hundreds of objectives or, a ton of work for one single assistant?
Man, I really don't feel like it's true that if you're trying to accomplish anything in business or serious projects that you don't have stuff you can hand off. Like as somebody who as little as like finding that tow truck earlier. Sure, I could have gotten and figured out how to get a tow truck, but like I would have been 30 minutes late here or an hour late if I had to deal with that on my own.
Is it like a muscle you have to like learn over time? Like, oh, I could send that to my team, or I could send that. They have a list.
I definitely think it's a muscle. It's a muscle, and people a lot of times are going back to the skill, like and again, it's getting help, not delegating. And for a lot of people, it's hard to ask for help, right? It is, I luckily, luckily or unlucky, luckily, need help, love asking for help. I'm like, oh man, I could use all the help I could get at all times. But like, I don't think that everybody thinks that way. And so I definitely think it's a muscle that you have to like, kind of like learn. And then I also think that like a lot of times you just don't have the right person. And so this is why at Magic, even if you have the great person, maybe it's not a right personality fit. And so this is why it was really important to me when we started offering, I fully believe that we have the best EAs. We have a great team of people. We really know how to recruit and retain. But sometimes it's not the right fit. And so this is why at Magic it was really important that you could, get a new EA and rematch with somebody else. Even if they're great, we'll find them somebody else to work with and then find you somebody else to kind of work with. And so I think it's sometimes you need to find somebody who kind of like works on your style and your flow. If you have the right person, then it just comes down to like meeting them appropriately. This is also a problem where it's like, you think that you can just like hand it off and completely like not think about it. I find that if you're like meeting your team, it goes a long way. Even if you're meeting them as a group, if you have bigger teams, you need to meet usually as a group. And I think I read that the CEO of NVIDIA, who actually I actually met him, and he was actually he was telling me, but I also read it then like a few months later, that he is no one-on-ones, and that he does he has 40 direct reports, and so he kind of talks to everybody as a group and meets them. But you still need to meet, so if you have an EA, you should meet them at least like once a week, sometimes once a day, even for 5 minutes, just to kind of debottleneck and figure out what they're working on, and kind of like, no, don't do it that way.
And that could be a Zoom call.
Yeah, Zoom call, phone call on the car ride while you're on the way to pick up the kids, right? Like, again, optimizing time. If you have to drive to pick up the kids anyways, why not just hop on a quick call, and assuming legally allowed while you're driving, and then just kind of say, hey, what's bottlenecking you? What are you working on? Oh no, don't do that. Do this instead. Yeah.
It's a lot of course correction.
Yeah, you got to course correct. But even if you think about your own, just think about the work you do. Like, you have to course correct yourself all the time. And I think people are overly optimistic on how much work they can really do themselves, how easy it is, how much they know exactly what to do. I was just building, before this, I was building out a proposal for MaxSpace with my team, and there's just so many iterations. Like, it's like, oh, that we're having to do as we're building out this proposal. It's like a slide deck, like 20 slides, kind of laying out this space station module, and it's not as easy. Okay, just fill out the charts, put in the graphics. You have to tell a story, and as the story comes together, it's like, no, this isn't right. We got to edit it this way or go in this direction. And it's taking way longer than I honestly would have expected. I was like, oh, this should be done in like 3 hours. It's been like, like 2 weeks or something crazy. Yeah. But that's not like the team's fault. It's just like things take longer than you want. This is a problem that I see with sometimes with Magic clients, but just entrepreneurs in general. Your entrepreneurs are often like really optimistic. I think Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, it's either Paul Graham or Sam Altman that was like, if there's a pessimistic CEO founder, I haven't seen one, or maybe it was a successful one. So what that means often with these optimistic entrepreneur founders, when it comes to delegating, they're like, oh, that should take like an hour of work or 2 hours of work. You've seen this, right? You even think this sometimes. And then like, dude, this took like a month. And then you get really upset. And then you're like, oh, I could have done that myself in like an hour, even though it really would have taken you a month. And so sometimes if you get the right people in place, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How do you think about for your team? You mentioned there are people who sometimes aren't a fit and you'll want to replace them and get someone else. But for the people that are really crushing it, like the really strong people on your team, how do you give them, more ambitious, more complicated work and allow them to level up?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me go back to the point about like replacing people, because I think it's really important. So sometimes, what I think is really healthy in an organization and from leaders is to always communicate when things aren't going well. Because if you communicate, then your team member, your employee, you can give them a chance to kind of course correct. And so the most official and common way is what they call a PIP, or a performance improvement plan, and it's used in almost every large organization. In my experience, if you give a correct performance improvement plan, a correct PIP, where you say, hey, here's the areas where you're not succeeding, here's how you can improve. I would say if you do a good job, at least 50% of the time, the employee gets better. They just didn't understand the expectations that was kind of set. If they really want the job or they really want to be working there, they do. The other 50% of the time, I would just say, the employee actually is just not really interested. They're not really interested, and so they don't really want to be there, and they're kind of like, okay, and so they don't improve, and that's usually when you got to find kind of somebody else. And so I think that's healthy for getting people that are not where you want them to be to get them there. But on the other end of the spectrum, you're saying, okay, you've got somebody who's doing a good job and they want more, or they just want more in general. Man, I love those people. Those are like my favorite people, because I've got like an unlimited amount of things that I'm trying to accomplish. Or trying to do. The to-do list is longer than where I don't even have to-do lists anymore. They're too big, So yeah, I mean, my plan. What I'll often do is just throw them as much as they can handle. And look, most people, will break at some point. You can't take on everything, right? Like I have a general rule of thumb where like really good people, they can own like one project, really well. And sometimes those projects, if they're really good and they want more, those projects can get bigger and in more complexity. But it's hard to juggle like four big projects. Like it's hard to write a book, star in a movie, come out with an award-winning song. It's even like Justin Timberlake found that hard, right? It's just very difficult to own a lot of projects. Yeah.
What do you think about productivity software? Do you have one thing that you use and that everybody kind of funnels the work into?
Man, I've tried. I've tried so many like to-do lists and apps, and and there's so much fun just to like play around with. But funny enough, I find them unproductive. Like like there's the Asanas and the Notions and Google Docs and everything. I have found like just basic lists, to be the most good, but the most useful for me. But that's probably because at this stage, like at this stage in my career, I'm not managing everybody and their to-do lists. Like everybody is expected to manage their own to-do list. And if you have a project and you don't have a to-do list, that's a problem, right? Like, but I couldn't even, I would spend beyond 24 hours a day, like managing to-do lists if I was, managing kind of everybody's, to-do list. And at Magic, we've tried a few different things. We've tried Notion. Notion's a big one that we've used a lot. We use Google Docs a lot, spreadsheets a lot. I often find kind of the more basic you can go, the better.
Spreadsheets are so versatile. That's what I like about
Yeah,
them.
spreadsheets are good. A lot of our team likes Notion. Notion's pretty fun. But yeah, I like simple for me.
And then you have everyone, at least your personal team, message you on Telegram, right?
Yes, yeah. I think I'm not a big fan of email. In fact, I can't think of a time ever in my entire career where I've been good at email.
It feels slow, doesn't it?
It's always been too slow for me or a distraction. I love chatting, like Telegram, Slack, sometimes iMessages. I love Telegram because it's super fast. Got a lot of other like cool privacy features and stuff. I love the speed. I love chatting though. Chatting, I think allows me to really manage multiple things at once. Whereas an email, I don't know if it's just way too many clicks. The way the threading's done, it's just not quite, there. So, everybody knowing that they can reach me kind of instantly over a message, I think is really important. Especially all my direct reports, everybody who works with me directly. Yeah.
And then all of your assistants are remote. They're all Magic assistants. We have remote executive assistants. There's been some debate about remote work, and some people are firmly proponents of it. Some people are skeptical. Where do you stand in terms of remote work? What do you think about it? Do you think it's here to stay? Do you think?
Yeah, I think. All right, I've got a few ideas, and I think they are morphing a little bit kind of over time. So maybe ask me in 10 years and it'll change. I believe though that remote work is more productive in a lot of ways. There's ways it can be unproductive. So let's talk about the unproductiveness. I think if you're working from home and you have your family at home distracting you in the background all the time, it's going to be very unproductive. That is actually probably the biggest detractor for remote work. However, if you can get yourself in if you can really set up your remote office so you can focus, I think it's it can make you a lot more productive than, working in the office where there's just so many kind of distractions. That being said, working in an office is good for a lot of other things like collaboration, teamwork, camaraderie, feeling a part of the office family or team, working together on a big audacious goal. I do think even though Magic is now, we went 100% remote after the pandemic. We had offices in the US, we had offices in the Philippines, but then decided, hey, we're already semi-remote anyways, and the pandemic happened. Let's go remote. I do think hybrid does have some benefits. If not hybrid, then everybody meeting together at least some amount of time, once a month, once a quarter, multiple times a year, so you can build some of those kind of benefits. I think. Look, I know that VR and has been on the cusp for the last 20 years, but look, Apple Vision Pro looks really, really freaking good. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. I really want to, but I would say within 2 decades for sure, probably really within a decade, it's going to be a lot easier to work remotely, but get the benefits of working together. Be on the other side of the world, but put on your headset and log into a conference room, right? I think you want to give the work-life balance to people. I think most people want to be able to work, be productive, get shit done, but then at the same time, enjoy their life, go where they want to go, be where they want to be, like not spend, I've been in offices where people would spend 2 or 3 hours of their day just on the road, like such a waste of time, like 2 to 3 hours on the road. Maybe that gets solved, with, things like fast trains and tunnels and all that kind of stuff. That that'd be cool. Or maybe like super quadcopters. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I agree with you on the remote work having pros and cons. I think a lot of the cons of in-office work people forget about. Like there are people that are distracted in office. There are people that
I think most of the office time I saw people, there was like distractions. It's like really water cooler gossip.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier for that kind of stuff to turn into like toxicity that can hurt like a workplace.
That's right.
From a few bad apples that can, really kind of,
that's right.
spoil an
in
office.
person. That's way worse than
it's way worse.
Someone can send bad DMs, but if someone's in office,
it's. I think we're more humans are more attuned to that kind of stuff, in person. So maybe I don't know, crazy theory. Maybe because everybody's in, at home, that toxicity is not spreading to the workplace. It's not spreading,
Yeah, I mean, if
outside to the
exactly, like if somebody is, harassing or something, that's you're not going to get that person in the office. So that's a benefit.
That's a benefit.
There's another benefit too, which is just people like it. When we moved Magic to work from home, it was universally loved. I mean, when you move a company work from home, employees love it. And so I think, you want happy people on your team. So I think it makes sense. I'm a big fan of remote work. I think it's only going to get easier and easier as technology improves, and a lot of these downsides are going to be removed. There might be in-person like experiences with VR, like you said, that could help for those times that are needed. But I think it's worth betting on that. Another benefit too is you open up your talent pool to the whole world, which is huge, because if you're relying on just the people that are an hour away from your office in your talent pool, that's
very limiting,
completely limiting. And we're really, it's amazing how many smart people there are all around the world that are looking for work and that want to join a great company. So that's one thing that Magic tries to connect companies with global talent, and that's something that we've been doing for the last 8 years. So we're a firm believer of that. I know some people are skeptical about remote work or about hiring globally, but I've been surprised by how. I'd like to hear your thoughts too. Over the last 8 years, have you seen people change their minds? Is it more common now than ever? People that are kind of open to this idea?
Yeah. I do think it's definitely becoming more. The pandemic really opened up a lot of minds kind of here. And now it's funny because Silicon Valley is kind of shifting back. You see a lot of the VCs and the experienced entrepreneurs kind of talking down remote work and how an office is where it's at. And I think the reason for that is because that hardcore, quote unquote, mentality that gets thrown around a lot in Silicon Valley, it's a little bit harder to create remote. It's easier to like get everybody 80 hours a week if they're part of a camaraderie, Yeah,
people sleeping in the office and stuff like that.
Yeah, sleeping in the office and stuff. And I do think that that's kind of you need to balance really aggressive goals and getting people aligned and kind of hitting it with the remoteness. I do think that there is a stronger potential. I think so. When you're going like super hardcore inside an office, I think there's a strong potential for people to burn out. If you're remote, I think there's a stronger potential for people to dog out. Essentially like
flake out.
Just like it's like start getting tired and sleepy and just kind of get into this routine, and then they're not they're not being aggressive and hitting goals. So I think they both have their own different challenges. Where you look, the goal of like any high performing companies in Silicon Valley tech startups is to be aggressive and move quickly. And so I do think that you have some challenges there where it's a little bit easier in the office to rally the troops, right? But I think I think you can balance it, with being aggressive on the goals and the timelines and what you're trying to accomplish, and then having the right people. I think it puts more of an onus on having the right people. So, and what's that mean? Like people that are self-driven rather than it's easier you throw somebody that's not as self-driven into the office. They're surrounded by people that are like plowing and moving forward. Like, okay, I guess I got to do some stuff too. It's a little bit harder to throw that person on like a Zoom call, and see like if they're probably not thinking, oh, okay, I got to do some stuff too. They're like, oh man, this job's easy. Just hop into a Zoom call and that's it. And so you need to really make sure you have people that are like aggressive and driven enough on their own, when they're remote, because they're either in a Zoom call or alone a lot.
Well, one thing you've mentioned on this conversation and to me a lot previously is just the importance of goals for everyone on your team. So I think that also helps too. If there's someone working remote, if they clearly understand what their goals are and what their expected output is, at the end of the day, they got to they got to hit their goals. So they got to show some results. So.
Yeah, exactly. You got to, I do think that a lot of organizations are kind of like they sacrifice. They're not putting emphasis on goals enough, and they're making up for that by having everybody in the office, right?
Exactly.
You have people like get them in the office. Obviously, they got to be working on something. But if you have really clear targets on what you're going for, now this isn't always true, right? Like like a lot of my other startups, Magic doesn't do this, but a lot of my other startups do hardware. And so you need, for hardware, you need to be in the office, right? When you're actually in a lab physically building stuff, you need to be, at kind of at a location. But believe it or not, so I remember at Maiden Space, we had this like, pretty diehard mentality. My co-founder and chief engineer, this guy named Mike Snyder, he, anytime like anybody like left the office before like 6 p.m., he's like, what is this, a half day?
I've heard stories about space companies. You guys are notorious.
Because you're not going to get to the moon by
That's right. It's a mission driven company.
Mission driven. And Snyder was great, and they had a big poster on the wall, like, "What is this? A half day?" Like pointing at you as you leave. As nobody wanted to leave first. But this is all pre-pandemic. But since the pandemic, I think that even those have gone slightly hybrid. Even the hardware startups, you can do things like design CAD on a laptop, and kind of whatnot. So yeah.
So shifting to your personal life here and your personal team that you work with, you have a number of full-time people on your team, and you are one of the people that travels the most of anybody that I know. So I know that's something that they help you with. Right?
Yeah.
You also have mentioned that you do a lot of, gifts and planning all of that. The team handles that for you. The manager calendar. You said you haven't managed your calendar in a while or email. They fully handle that for you. Is there anything else that comes to mind? Trips, calendar, email, gifts.
Yeah. I think, so I love Magic as a product. It's, it's the whole reason that even with like the space stuff, the healthcare stuff, that like I just have to. Magic is by far and away the best product in the world for me. The only ones that even are in the same category then they're not in the same category, but even close, is like Uber and Amazon, right? Like products that I use daily, but it's still, Magic is like a 10x on those, maybe even 100, because almost everything I'm trying to accomplish in my life, Magic helps with. My Magic team, my Magic assistants, Magic, the service you talked about where you can chat with it and kind of hand stuff off. And so there's kind of like not any facet. It's like, oh, what do you use Magic for? It's more like, what don't I use it for? Like what don't I get help with that I kind of need to get help with. Yeah, I mean, you listed a lot of them. Like I've been in a pinch so many times where magic has helped me. I've flights have gotten canceled, and last minute they need to book me a new one, and they figure it out before the airline does, so I don't have to wait in this crazy line or get stuck, overnight. Just now on the way here, they found somebody to kind of tow my car. Like Mother's Day gifts for sure. They're on top. They're on top of the holidays and birthdays, and like, hey, Mother's Day is coming up. Do you want to get your mom, some flowers? Do you want to do? We did this last year. Do you want to do this? You did tulips last year. You want to do roses this year? Or do you want to get her, this gift or that gift? That kind of applies across the board. Like, I think last week a friend was getting married and I couldn't make it, and so we bought them a bottle of champagne. Magic did, called the restaurant they were at and got them like a bottle of champagne sent, on our behalf with a little note. As an example, changing reservations. I'm like today, I was 30 minutes late. And at like a restaurant, you got like 15 minutes to show up, right? And so sometimes calling like, hey, giving a change there, or getting hard to get reservations. Often it just takes a little bit of plow to kind of do that. I love taking a photo of something and saying, hey, like, can you get me this? I had a friend that had this awesome like NASA shirt from H&M. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And I like took a photo. I was like, can you get me like 3 or 4 of these? And they ordered me like 3 or 4 of those. And then they're like, oh, they also have shorts. Do you want the shorts too? I was like, yes, I do. And then I love those so much. I was like only wearing these exclusively for like a few weeks. And I was like, wanted to buy like 10 of them. But then they ran out. H&M doesn't have them anymore. But now Magic is checking every month to see like when they'll kind of come back, kind of online. And then Angelia, my partner, she's like, do you really want 10 of these? I was like, yeah, they're super cheap and these are amazing. Like there's a great, NASA, shirt. So like at a worst case, I can give these away kind of as gifts. Managing my condo, man, there's a huge problem right now with the condo that Magic is really kind of working with the building on and working with the neighbors on. And I couldn't even imagine trying to manage this stress. There's like a leak that they're claiming is caused by, our condo, and, that'd been horrible. This is just kind of on like the personal side. Like there's so much personal, like managing personal stuff. It's like, it's actually a lot of work, And man, every time I'm thinking about that, I'm not thinking about, managing Magic or going to the moon, or building like big space station modules, or, any like things that are like much more like higher kind of level and whatnot.
I think if you don't have something like Magic, and a lot of people put it on their partner, causes marital stress. So
Yeah.
if you have an EA, it can, you can delegate it to them and not your partner.
Oh yeah.
It'll save you a little bit.
And you'll see this,
headache.
sometimes you have like stay at home, like dads or stay at home moms, and they're the ones that have to deal with all the personal stuff. And then
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Sometimes it's more work than the actual work. And it's like, you don't think about it if you're in the other role. If you're but man, the personal stuff, there's just kind of, it's kind of ongoing. Traveling by far and away, I travel a lot, right? Because even though a lot of stuff I do is remote, but then there's a lot of work in offices, and I have offices all over the world in multiple different countries. And so I'm having to travel and, a lot, and I'm always trying to optimize to make sure it's, it's for the right amount of time. And essentially, like balancing the right flights, right hotels, or an Airbnb, changing flights because plans change a lot. It's not like as easy as like, for a lot of people, I think it's like, I'm going to Japan in a month for these dates. My life's a little bit more complicated than that. It's like, okay, probably going to Japan in a month for these dates, but they might be in flex. Okay, and then and then if you need to change a flight, oh my God, I got to call the airline. That would be, it takes a lot of time. And so my Magic team is amazing. They're so good at that, making sure that me and Angeli are kind of sat together. We have the right seats. If things switch, changing a flight, getting a refund, canceling the other one, making sure that we have the boarding passes, all this kind of stuff. Where if you think about like traveling, it can take a lot of time. But if you're traveling a lot and trying to manage, work, it just really can be, a hindrance or killer.
And now, your Magic team really understands you and your life and your preferences. And you've invested, you said this earlier, you have to invest the time into it. One thing I often tell people that, sign up for Magic for the first time, get an assistant. I said, unfortunately, the first month is the worst the product ever is.
I know, it's unfortunate.
It only gets better.
Yeah, that's right.
Over time. So I'm curious your thoughts on that and how it's, your team has improved over time.
At least the first 2 weeks is kind of like just, more of a training, kind of thing. But yeah, I think you're right. Like the first month is really kind of onboarding and learning. But then it's like what I said earlier, like it's like you spend like 120%, but then it goes down to only like 20%, for a given task, like, managing, my travel or whatnot. And I think it's the case even every time I bring on a new EA or assistant to kind of help with that. And then, if you have multiple EAs, then you could have a team lead. Somebody who can lead. We have a great team lead, Trisha. She's awesome, and she kind of helps manage, making sure everything is. She helps with the onboarding. That's the good thing. If you add multiple people to the team, then other people can help with the onboarding as well to kind of help that. But yeah, like it takes a while to kind of learn any given kind of task. And then on like the business side, like your email calendaring, yeah, like like I said, I'm very rarely in email. I'm chatting, so my team flags if there's an important email. All important emails are external at this point. Everybody on my team knows not to email me, but there's a lot of external important emails, and there's been times in my life where I've missed really important emails just because I'm not. And you're like, shit, oh man, this really really important email I completely missed. And so the team flags that to make sure that I'm not missing important emails and help. They help draft a response to respond right away. So I just have to edit. A lot of times they even handle the response if they know what it is. Like 80% of the time, I'd say they even handle kind of the default response to make sure things are going. If it's a high value, not value, but highly important email or to a person, then I'll edit it. And even having a draft makes it a lot easier. It saves me like at this stage, like when I'm trying to do so much, like saving micro time is really important. They don't handle the calendar 100%. I want to make sure that I'm not meeting, people like that I can like really prioritize what I need to meet on my calendar. But they handle it to the point where I'm like, okay, if I'm like meeting, like right now going through a meeting investor phase. It's like, okay, I blocked off like these 20 hours in the week. They know the investors I want to meet. Just throw them in on those times. That's kind of the level of guidance, that I give them. Or it's like, okay, you can supersede some of these internal meetings. You can take over some of these internal meetings if one of these other times, kind of don't work. So it's not like 100% coordination, which goes back to your earlier points. Like, oh, it's easier to do it myself. But no, I still think it saves me, up to 80% of my own time on calendaring, at least 50%. And so that's 50% of my time I could be spending on something else. If it wasn't on like working, then I'd be spending it, watching the Foundation, the new TV show that just came out. I love that. That's awesome.
I like that. Yeah. You really are moving away from the idea of delegation, which is this idea of just sending the work over to someone and they fully handle it, to more of a collaborative process where you're working with the person.
I don't think you can send the work over to anybody like ever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is.
It doesn't matter who it is. Like even like my co-founders, right? Think about the things that like, we work on to kind of together, right? Like
yeah, you couldn't just
we have
send
to.
me
It
something.
has to be collaborative on a certain extent. Even us talking about like doing this, this video, like when we were talking about, like we had to work together. Like you did like 90%, but like then like but we like if I don't get involved, then it's not gonna go. Who knows what direction it's gonna go in, right? Like I think that just applies to kind of anything. You can delegate, I guess 100% if you're okay with the results being whatever. Like it could, you could. I do think Magic. Like our ultimate vision for Magic will be that you can ask Magic for anything and get it done. Like let's just say, city on the moon, right? But even then, you're probably let's say I could delegate to Magic, go build a city on the moon for 10,000 people. Even then I'm gonna have to, get involved or be okay with whatever results they kind of provide, right? It's like, okay, do you want the city to be like underground in the lava tubes? Do you want it to be in the Shackleton crater? Do you want it to be, a big dome, at the top where you can look at Earth? Like
You've thought a lot about the city.
of course, yeah, definitely. I've thought a lot about this in particular. I've thought a lot about, but like the least if I just delegate that and then don't get involved, then it's they might hit the exact ask. And you see this now when you play with like AI tools like ChatGPT or Midjourney or even the Magic AI. When you chat with it, it all depends on the prompt that you give it, right? And then it's more how much time is it like it's back and forth. And so I find that the best users of these AI tools right now are the people that actually are used to like working with humans and like refining and going back and forth to get to something that they want, because they're like, oh shit, I asked it to like write me this essay, but then like, or write me this proposal, or write me this abstract, and it didn't give me what I wanted, and I had to go back and forth 10 times. Well, yeah, I mean it's because like you're iterating, kind of refining the process, and even like maybe even when we have super intelligence, like it's probably not going to be, you're not going to be able to hand it off to 100% unless it's through Magic or something like Magic that really, really, really knows your personal preferences and better than you even know it yourself. And so it's already got good enough to know what the back and forth would kind of lead to. But I would wage a bet that even then you would want to like iterate and evolve.
So asking you about that, because you're a power user of both human executive assistants and AI assistants.
Mhm.
I know you use both
Yep.
all the time. What are your thoughts on what type of work to delegate now to AI versus what to delegate to people? Another way to put it is, how capable are the AI tools right now? How much of it's hype? How much can it actually do? I'm curious your take on that.
Yeah. So I mean, this by the time somebody's watching this, it could be completely obsolete because AI is moving so fast. But as of right now, I think AI is really good for delegating. Funny enough, creative brainstorming. Like when you're just like staring at something blank and you need to go get some ideas out there, going back and forth. Just same way you get somebody creative like you. You're one of the most creative people I know. We can like riff off of each other. You can riff off with a lot of the AI tools, different ideas. Whether it's graphics or text, you can kind of get some cool ideas out there. I think a lot of the LLMs, large language models, are great for providing a lot of text. So if you let's and they're actually really pretty good at editing. And so, like, let's say you need to write, like a proposal or a memo. I would not say write a memo for me. And then it'll probably spit something out that's, the 80-20 of the 80-20 of the 80-20, or like the 51-1 that I like to call it. Like it's like probably like they could take it 0 to 1, but then it's like it's not really going to be what you wanted. But I find that if you fill it out with a bunch of ideas and bullet points that you want in that memo, like that it can actually turn that, they can edit that up for you into an actual like good like memo or abstract or kind of or proposal or something like that. Just like anything research related, if you treat it as a first pass, not a given. It's like, okay, I want to learn about this disease or or this new topic. It can actually it's pretty good at giving you decent decent knowledge from the internet, because it's just taking the entire internet and kind of statistically telling you like what the answer is there. I love doing that more than Googling now. Now I wouldn't use that for anything that's more than that first pass, because it's still a lot of the AI tools still hallucinate a lot. Where like it's like, oh my god, that's completely wrong. So if I need something to be accurate and correct, right? Like, I would go to the people, right? And so you can ask like an AI tool, like, hey, can you get me a same day passport renewal? And then the AI tool might say yes, might say no. The answer is yes, but it's very complicated. And you hand that off to like a magician or a magic assistant. They should be able to get you that same day kind of passport renewal. So that's like, okay, that's the kind of thing that I need to go to.
So we can help with strategy.
Yeah, it can help with strategy. It can help you think. It can help you think and write and research. But I think the AI tools are really good at like that kind of stuff. Researching, helping writing. You do not hand off all the writing. And creative strategy thinking kind of stuff. The rest, but like actually getting work done, yeah, you got to hand that off to a human. Now, I think that'll change over time, and I think more and more will be done by AI. Like in 5 years, I think in 5 years, 99% of what magic does can be done by AI. Is my optimistic.
That's very optimistic.
It's my optimistic,
Right now, it can't click and it can't call.
Can't click, can't call. It can't be accurate. A lot of times, it doesn't know what you're really trying to get at. Look, that's optimistic. I think we did a benchmark of magic versus all the AI tools out there, and like they can accomplish like max 10%, more like 5 to 10% of what
a magic human assistant can do.
Of what a magic human assistant can do. And as like one of our vision or dream is to give everybody in the world kind of an assistant, right? Well, the only way you can do that is if you can really do a lot with AI. So I think in 5 years, I think it'd be great if we had like right now we have a few thousand assistants. It'd be cool if we had 100,000 assistants, but then the rest was done by 99% kind of AI.
A billion users.
Yeah, something. That's like the very optimistic, super aggressive dream. Look, maybe it's only 80%, but 80% is still a lot, right? Like if you can get 80% done by AI and like figure out how to integrate that with the humans really well. The hard challenge is how to integrate that with the person, the actual humans, which we put a lot of energy into. Then I think then you could have then you can have that hybrid.
There's a lot of fear that AI is going to replace, our jobs, let's say.
Wow, that'd be great. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Do you think that that's a valid fear, or do you think, hey, everyone's just going to collaborate with AI and our roles might shift, but pretty much the same amount of jobs are going to exist now? Or I know you don't have a crystal ball. I'm just curious your opinion.
I'm gonna also. I said this earlier, but I want to preface this with I do think my views can change over time. But my current view is, if you look back at technology, it's all tech. We've had fears of like technology stealing jobs for a long time, and over the long arc of history, it's enabled humans to do more and accomplish more. And sure, maybe very specific jobs change, job functions. A lot. There used to be a lot more farmers than there is now, but now technology allows a lot less farmers to do a lot more farming. And so I believe at least in this decade, in the 2020s, that it's going to be just a force multiplier for people to get more shit done. And it's going to be nuts on how much is enabled, kind of by that.
So there's a democratizing effect.
Absolutely. Like right now, to do very complicated things, you need a lot of funds and resources, right? Like, let's take I'm gonna hit like a controversial topic, right? And maybe I should avoid this because I'm not like.
We can edit it out if it's too controversial.
It's not that. I maybe should avoid it because I'm not like a expert in filmmaking, but there's a writer strike going on right now. And a big part of the writer strike is holy moly, like AI can steal our jobs, for movie writing.
I support the writer's strike, by the way.
Yeah. Well, this is really interesting. So I, me, one of my friends, Richard Wan, my partner in Jelly Ong, and a few others, we put together the first AI written and directed short film last year. So before AI was like really known and really in the public, and part of the reason I did that is I wanted groups like writers to be thinking about this technology coming down the pipeline. It's like because I didn't think at the time enough people were thinking about it. And the film is called The Safe Zone. It's actually not that great, but it's just the first short film written and directed by AI. The AI wrote the script. The AI laid out exactly how to how the videographer should shoot the film, how to edit the film, what the wardrobe and style should be, and kind of everything. It was pretty cool. But I think there's a few key points. So let's just take filmmaking as an example because I love this example and because it's a hot topic. If you look at film in the last 20 years, what you have seen is the amount of screen time. Let's just calculate, TV shows and movies, in terms of minutes. The amount of minutes filmed has gone up exponentially, right? Just think of Netflix. Disney Plus, HBO Max. Think about when we were kids, how many TV shows were coming out, how many movies were coming out versus now. There's so much more screen time. There's a huge long tail of screen time, and that trend is going to just continue to go up. And now AI is going to allow it, so we can have even more long tail on screen time. And so maybe a screenwriter's dollar, dollar per script, will go down. How much money they make per like script they write, but I would wager that like the dollar per hour will actually go up.
They could pump out five scripts instead of one.
Yeah, dude. If James Cameron could make 5 times the amount of movies, how happy I would be. I want to watch like everything James Cameron has there. Christopher Nolan to be able to, and I think that, or going back to the democratization point, like you're gonna have Christopher Nolan's that weren't even that couldn't have been a Christopher Nolan, couldn't have even had a chance to kind of make a film, be able to have a chance to kind of make a film. And so I'm really much in the camp that that people in general as a whole are going to be able to do more, especially the people that are trying to leverage the technology as much as possible. That being said, look, I really do understand the fear. I think that it's a holy moly kind of scary, type thing. But I think it's one of those things that people should really be trying to leverage AI as much as they can, rather than avoid it. If you're gonna avoid it, I think avoiding it is probably the worst thing somebody can do. And I'm really actually worried in the writer strike. The thing that worries me is that it's going to cause production studios to actually start using AI without the writers. They're gonna be like, all right, well, they're gonna start trying to fill in the gaps because there's a strike going on. really, it's if they're if you can have the writers like leverage the technology, I think they're going to be able to go a lot more. Like I'm not sure if you heard it's like the movie's called, I think it's Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mhm.
Did you ever see that?
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. So they apparently they did that movie with only 7 video editors, which is there's a lot of CGI and everything. They predicted that if they weren't using AI, they would have needed like a team of 200, and then they probably wouldn't have been able to make the film because it was actually not like super low budget, but it wasn't an extremely high budget film. And so AI kind of enabled that movie, which is really cool. What do you think about AI in, like, let's say the next 5 years, like the AI revolution, things that are happening, as the technology advances, how does that going to impact people's, jobs and,
Yeah. Well, I think all technology doesn't affect the entire world all at once. There's still trains that are running right now, even though the train is not the most.
I would really love faster trains too.
Yeah, there's still slow trains that run on coal that still exist.
That's right.
So I don't think it's going to instantly change everything. I think it's going to affect, some niche things first, and then slowly develop over time. All technologies have kind of a maturation, like a adoption curve. I think right now it really depends on what happens once we get, 10x, 100x the compute with some of these models. We saw from GPT-3 to GPT-4, the kind of improvements there. I think it'll be interesting to see, if they start spending 100 billion, 200 billion on this, what's going to happen there. I know GPUs are very expensive right now, and people are buying it up. So I think we'll see. I think even if it gets, remarkably better than it is now in a short term, I think the biggest question is going to be, how is it actually going to interface with companies, with people? It's hard enough to take current technology and implement it in an organization to make it more efficient. So I think even if it gets really, really amazing, I think you're still going to get companies kind of doing things the way they've been doing, just because it's hard to change. That's one thing I know, at Magic, we really pushed very early on for everybody in the organization to use these AI tools. And it was, people were skeptical at first. Not everybody. Some people were gung-ho about it right from the beginning. But other people were skeptical. But a lot of people really started using it all the time. And we saw, I don't know, do you have the numbers of how many people use it regularly? I think it's more than half the company, right?
No, yeah. Everybody, on average, at least we're, somebody's using an AI tool at least once a day.
Yeah. So it took us, but that was a like, concentrated effort to do that.
Yeah.
And you look at a lot of companies. I mean, we work with a lot of different companies, and some of them are incredibly efficient using all of the modern technology, and some of them are really inefficient, not using really much, technology at all.
Yep.
And so I think it's going to affect, I think some companies will adopt it and some won't. And, it really depends on, once we get that much larger amounts of compute online, what actually happens there. We don't know. So we'll find out. The next big thing, I think, is also going to be, once it does more than text and images and actually completes actions. So, I mentioned before, right now, it can't click, it can't call, it doesn't do much. I know there was a GPT-4, they did a study.
It's because in the creative tasks that it does, like, let's say creating an image or creating text, it's a lot easier. If it makes like a small mistake, it's okay, right? Right. If it's, if it makes a statement wrong, it's not the end of the world, right? Or if it makes an image and it adds an extra finger on the hand, it's like, okay, maybe we can just graph that out. But if you try to have it clicking and calling, what if it calls like 911 on accident, or it's as it's clicking, through Amazon to buy you a TV hanger, it buys you a TV. And so like small mistakes can lead to big problems when you start doing real world actions.
Yeah, I know GPT-4 before they released it, they did some tests on it, and one of them was GPT-4 hiring a TaskRabbit, and so that was an example. It failed to do it correctly, but it got up to the point where it was trying to convince the TaskRabbit that it was human, and the TaskRabbit denied it. So it's there's something interesting there. I think we're so far from, the AI really generating massive economic value the same way like a person does. But we'll see with the larger amounts of compute, like with 10x.
But I think in a decade, I think a decade will be interesting. I know I'm more of a, I often say, you're one of my favorite visionary partners that I work with, and you like to categorize yourself as a midterm visionary.
Yeah, I think in like the 3 year.
you like to think 3 years ahead. I love to think like 10 years ahead.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ahead though. Like, do you think that AI is going to be contributing more economically to the world than humans?
It depends if we run into a roadblock or not. I mean,
like GPU roadblock.
Yeah, I mean, AI has had it's had summers and it's had winters. So there could be a period of time that
are we in springtime right now?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe we're in spring. So I don't know. This is the thing that nobody really knows. But I mean, obviously, like, let's say in the next 30 years, yeah, I mean, something pretty crazy is going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's likely. But then again, there's a lot of interesting technology and, in space and in healthcare and the other businesses you're working in. One thing I love about, the company we work for, we co-founded, is just that, getting work done is so fundamental to everything.
Yeah.
So whatever your goals are or aspirations are,
yeah,
you're going to need to get something. You're going to need to get your work done. You're going to need to hire a team. You're going to need to project manage. You're going to need to collaborate with other people. And so our goal is really just to, streamline that process and make that as easy and frictionless as possible.
That's right. Yeah.
So
at Magic, yeah, that's like the vision is like getting work done or getting shit done, if you want to say it that way. The word that we like to use that, internally, that doesn't make a lot of sense externally, is plow. It just kind of came up. Somebody's like, plow harder, plow through that, get the work done.
Like a snow plow going
like a
through
snow plow, like, plow through a field. Like really, like it's like almost like plow as a service. It's like work, as a service is kind of what we
overcoming obstacles.
Overcoming obstacles and trying to make it easier and easier and more convenient to get work done. And that's like the start with why, our fundamental, but like, and everybody, needs, I believe everybody that's trying to accomplish a lot could really use an assistant. And I'd argue anybody who's kind of living, period, would could get a lot done kind of with their own personal assistant. I think the world is going to be like, in Apple early on, I was like, oh, everybody's going to have a PC. And they're like, what are these nerds in Silicon Valley with these spreadsheets talking about everybody having their own personal computer? And now everybody spends most of their time, on their phone, their PC, their little handheld personal computer. I think it's going to be the same thing like in 30 years, like when it comes to like assistants. I really believe that everybody's going to have a personal assistant.
And Uber did that with private driver,
yeah.
To be able to summon a private driver. And Magic's doing that now with an assistant.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's a new entrepreneur wants to create, you've done it 4 times. I'm curious, someone comes to you and says, hey, Aaron, I have an idea, but should I risk it? Should I do it? Like, what are your thoughts on someone who wants to know if they should start a business?
I think, I definitely think you should.
Just go for it.
Go for it. But I think it depends on how how much conviction you have. I think I've seen See, a lot of people fail because they give up too early. It, I would. It's doing businesses is a multi-year thing at a minimum. And most times, like if you want to actually like really succeed, like have some real success, it's closer to like 5 to 10 years. 10 is like really, 10's the number that I often think is like I'm not even starting projects that I'm not expecting to put 10 years in. Because one of my favorite, I think it was Bill Gates quotes, is that everybody overestimates what they can get done in 1 year and then underestimates what they can get done in 10 years. Like a year, it's you can't make a lot of progress with some super luck. And so, that being said, I'm not saying you stick to a bad idea for 10 years, but I would say if you feel like when you're starting an idea, it's like, is this something I'd want to work on, kind of for a while? Like when we started Magic, you said something like, look, I'm committing to this for at least 5 years.
5 years.
Yep. And then at the 5 year point, you're like, okay, I'll go
Let's
another
do
5.
another 5.
But like, if you're not in that mindset about something, then the answer is no. Like it's, I do not know too many people that have been successful in like 3 months or 6 months or something like that. I guess there's a few places in the world where you can be, but it's difficult.
The other thing I would say is, I agree with you 100%. The other thing I would say is you start and feel free to pivot.
I agree with that. Feel free to pivot. You gotta, I think Paul Graham actually literally just tweeted, I think in the last day or two, that like most people think, a lot of people think of startups as like having a great vision is important. You're having this big crazy idea, but really it's more like a science experiment where you need to like test the hypothesis and take it where the results lead you. And the hypothesis in business is the market. What do people want? Yeah. And then once you get that, once you have something that people want, that's when you're gonna need a team, and that's when you come to Magic to help you.
That's right. Yeah, it's really exciting to see people that are, starting their first company or maybe their second, and they're coming to us, and we're able to get them, the foundation of their new company. That's really exciting too for the people that we get them, because they get to be a part of a startup, which is exciting too.
Yeah. What's your favorite stuff that Magic, like just Magic, people have used Magic for? Some favorite memories of yours, because we've helped a lot of people in a lot of ways. I'll even kick off with one while you
go for
maybe
it.
think is that. So as you kind of stated, we sold Made in Space in 2020. And Made in Space is really cool because it was the first company to do in-space manufacturing. Actually, humans and Homo species have been building tools down here on Earth for millions of years. And this was the first real time that humans made anything off-world. Was made in space in the devices we built for NASA and with NASA we built. Hundreds of tools and parts, and now actually close to 1,000. And then we started making stuff that could be used down on Earth that could only be made in space. And really cool company. But it got to the point where it was getting big, and we kind of made a decision to sell it. And we had some offers coming in, but we didn't really, we didn't hire an investment bank. We didn't run a process. And it looked like we were going to accept the offers. And so I was like, okay, I wonder how Magic could help here. And so I was like, all right, Magic, I need you to build me a list of anybody who might be interested in buying, Made in Space. And they built out an entire list, and they found a lot of private equity companies that had been doing aerospace. And they found a firm called Aero Equity, and they, sent out an email on my behalf saying, hey, here's this company, Made in Space. Would you be interested in talking? And then they got the, Air Equity responded like, yeah, let's have a phone call. And they set it up in my calendar. And that led to who we actually sold the company to, which was Air Equity. And they were a great firm. But Magic actually, found, kind of that firm. And then Aero Equity they merged Made in Space with 2 other companies and turned it into Redwire. and took over the Maiden Space headquarters. And now Redwire Space headquarters is Maiden Space's old headquarters out of Jacksonville, Florida. And then they took the company public, about 2 years ago. And so it was pretty cool. And I was actually on the board throughout that whole process as they, until they took it public and got to go ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Really awesome experience. But I kind of reflect and laugh. It's like, wow, like in many ways, Magic helped make that happen by finding Arrow Equity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a much, I guess, a simpler example, but it's one that makes me smile because I think it's just so.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really sums up, I think, the key value add that we provide.
Before we go on, I just want to clarify something. So it wasn't like Magic sold the company, but there's that word plow. What Magic was able to do, you can try throwing like one employee at it, but like often for like things like this, like build a list of every private equity firm and every other potential value. What you have is a list of hundreds to thousands, and you need like maximum plow to really do a good job. And so Magic was able to pull in like 3, 4, 5 different magicians or executive assistants to kind of
it was an urgent team
to plow out an entire list like immediately. And it was a huge list. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And then go out there and like contact them and filter for the right ones. And of course, it wasn't as simple as I just said, like, do it and then it's done. I had to like give some guidance and like after we had the list, filter it down to these groups. Here's the ones that I'd want to talk to, and then go out and contact them. But that plow is the thing that Magic really
and Magic
adds.
can get you those 4 people like that. You don't have to go on a job board somewhere and filter through and interview them, and then you don't have to go through that whole process, which can take a month. Just to hire even the team. Magic can get you those people.
That's right. It's really good. Magic itself is going through a fundraising process right now, or about to, and we had to build out a list of every investor kind of interested in AI and whatnot. It's by far and away the most robust list I've ever seen. Thousands upon thousands of investors, way more investors than I even realized. And I was showing it to, showing like selling the value of Magic, showing it to another investor that I'm on the board of another company, and he's like, "Oh my God, that list is huge." He's like, can I get it? And I was like, "Man, just use Magic." Like it's like that's just like one of those things. Like build me an investor list of every investor who's ever invest in AI and fill it out. Here's the rows that I want you to say, and make it robust. I want to see everything, like hundreds at a minimum. And so that's one of my favorite use cases because it's very powerful.
That just use Magic. I've been in that situation too, where I'll have a friend or a family member or something, and they'll be like, "Can you ask Magic to do this?" And I'm like, "You can use Magic yourself. Like, go ahead." I mean, sure, I'll put it in.
They're trying to delegate, using a Magic to you.
Yeah.
I do love that. Sometimes Angelia does that with me, and I do it with her, where we're delegating to each other using Magic because it is not 100%. Yet.
That's why I did the group chat.
Yeah, that's what the group chats with Magic are great. But yeah, you had another example.
Oh, I just have this is a really simple one, but it sums up kind of like, one of the things I love about working at Magic and the value add that we have. There's an entrepreneur. It was kind of a first time entrepreneur. She was selling, she had 3 different businesses online, like selling, different like clothing and things that she made on her own. So, but started doing really well and had more orders than she could manage because, which is great. She was suffering from success, right? So this is she was a mom that was working kind of on the side, and it grew to the point where she needed help and someone to go through and answer all the emails and track the inventory and make sure the orders went through and that whole process. And the fun thing about that was, I got to talk to her and
she was doing that all herself before.
Yeah. And she didn't, it was manageable, when there were only a few orders, but then, she actually started succeeding to the point where she couldn't do it on her own. And that's always a nice point. We get a lot of people that come to us and just go, hey, I can't do all of this. Like, I need help. And then what was nice about that was, walking through what is the experience actually like of getting somebody who can help you and actually implementing them into your workflow. And so it was stuff like, well, how do they access my Gmail? Do I just give them my password? How do I set them up? What expectations do I have for the assistant? When should they work? All of these like questions, we at Magic can guide you through setting up the assistant for you and your business specifically. And this is, why we get on the phone with you and walk you through like exactly the person that we hire for you, exactly how they're going to work in your business, how they're going to implement or, integrate with your software. And so that's always the part I really like. I like to see people who are succeeding, who need help, and they want to understand like, hey, this person that I'm going to hire, how are they going to be the right person for me? And how are they actually going to, integrate? And once that got set up for her, she was just like, you guys are amazing. Like, this is handled for me now. And now I want to give her more work. And now, she's working for me full time. And, so it started there from just a relatively simple request of like, hey, I need my emails handled and my inventory tracked, to, hey, I have a partner here who can help me with even more things. So that was an exciting evolution. And we see a lot of like smaller examples like that too, as well as the larger scale. We've had other clients that have used us to, help invest, help find investors and do fulfillment for their company at a large scale for different tasks and sales assistants and things like that. But the small ones, I don't know, there's something about the one-on-one interactions that we have. For everybody that signs up, we talk to them on the phone, we guide them through, hey, here's how this person's going to interact with your company. Here's how they're going to get set up. Here's how we're going to find the person that will fit for your need. It's very hands-on. We're very hands-on with that process.
Yeah. And we're hands-on enough where, I started using things early on in my career, like Upwork, and just ran into, I think it was called Odesk back then. It just ran into issues at every step of the way. When I'd hire somebody, a lot of times they would be gone. They'd quit in the first 2 weeks and then have to start back from scratch. It was very hit or miss on if they were, high quality candidate. It was hard to tell if they're actually working and really putting in max effort. And those are issues that we try to address at Magic, making sure that we hire like top tier candidates, usually from like one of the top, schools. We say the 1%ers. If they do end up like leaving, we make sure we have somebody on standby ready to, replace, them and fill that gap for you like quickly. Because things do happen where people do end up leaving, especially if you're hiring somebody not from the U.S., right? And they're having to work like night shift or something. This often happens. But then also having like some type of, like you said, like an account manager who can kind of help you understand your business, your goal, your need, making sure that your assistants are actually doing that, and then kind of being there and making sure, hey, they're actually putting in their max effort, they're doing their job to kind of get the work done. We not only do we have quality control in place with people, like quality control management, we also have quality control in place with software. A lot of QC and software. And then going back to your earlier point, the other thing I think is great about Magic is we've really started to integrate like the AI tools. Like if AI can do it, we want the assistants to actually be using it, right? To kind of help their business. Now some users don't like that. I think most of them do. So that's flexible based on what the users kind of want. But I really think that personal and flexibility is kind of what makes Magic kind of special. It's like really trying to be flexible to the executives and businesses and people that use it for what they need.
Exactly, because in EA, I mean, that's they're going to be integrated into your life, and everyone's life is different. Everyone's needs are different. So
Yeah.
it has to be customized and tailored for them. What are some other differences, back in the Upwork or when you were hiring people
The
on
Odesk days?
Yeah, the Odesk days. What are some other differences there? I know I tried it as well. I remember just doing a lot of interviews and them not going anywhere.
Yeah, that was horrible. I hate having to do a lot of interviews.
I did like 20 interviews and I could not find anyone good.
This is the great thing about Magic. You can do an interview, which sometimes happens, but at least with us, they've gone through a bunch of.
Well, they've already gone through the 20 interviews.
The 20 interviews. So maybe you want to interview them before they start. But a lot of our users don't even do that. They just say, all right, let's get started. And they start. But then if that's not working, that's when you seamlessly find somebody new. We call it like seamless like replacement.
Because Magic has already, essentially did 20 interviews before you even get to the
20 interviews. We give you the top 1% of, in the pool of EAs you could ever get, and then train them on top of that. And then there's like kind of training kind of built in. And so, yeah, there's just like, I think we've really, obviously I'm biased, but like honed this service over decades of not having, my own needs, your needs, our other co-founders, and then the market's needs kind of fulfilled on hiring, EAs, executive assistants and virtual assistants, and getting the help that you need, over time.
So I know that you travel a lot and you have your home base is in a couple places around the world, but one of them is the Philippines.
Yeah.
And Magic has done a lot of hiring in the Philippines over the last 8 years. Do you have any thoughts on, the people there, the hiring market there, just any of your thoughts on the Philippines over the last 8 years?
Yeah. So my home base is Florida, but then my secondary home base, especially around the holidays, is the Philippines. And because I've been coming out here for 8 years, because we've done a lot of hiring out here. I love it, man. I think the Philippines is awesome. It's very attuned to American culture. Like there's a little history there where it was almost kind of a state after the Spanish-American War, and it was on track to become a state, but then World War II it kind of got taken over, and then after that it got taken over by the Japanese, and after that it was America actually helped the Philippines get its independence, but there is I actually think the Philippines has the highest support for America out of every other country kind of in the world in terms of likes America. So it's very American culture here. They in school it follows a lot of the American curriculum. Like they read like Catcher in the Rye and Scarlet Letter and all the stuff we read in America. English is the predominant language. They do speak Tagalog, but so it's saying it's if you're hiring not from the US, I think Philippines is a great place to hire because there's that American culture.
If you're a US business.
Yeah, if you're a US business. Now, I would say also European because, English, internationally is the predominant language in Europe as well, even though each country obviously has its own language. Then the people are just amazing. Very it's almost like it's, I've traveled to at least 60, 70 countries, and it's the most empathetic people that I've met. Like just very caring and loving, and like trying to understand, you, and they want to succeed. As a culture, and I think that's important. When a lot of the Magic assistants you hire, they come from the Philippines, and so you get somebody who like really cares and like wants to do a good job, wants to see you kind of succeed. Yeah.
I think the thing that really impresses me is the young people. Especially, I think some of the people of kind of the newer generations are so smart and ambitious that I think that I would not be surprised to see many multi-billion-dollar Philippine startups.
Yeah.
In the future, I think that the newer generations are, raised on the internet,
Yeah.
and are really, really smart and really ambitious. And I've been really impressed. And I know there are several U.S. executives who have told me that, kind of over my dead body, will I ever lose this person that Magic got me in the Philippines? And they've, we want to fly them to the U.S. and make them a main person in the
That's awesome.
In the organization. So I mean, it really is world class.
World class. I agree, and I've actually invested in several Philippine tech startups. That are
you have,
yeah,
So tell me about that.
at least a dozen. And yeah, I mean, I think it dawned upon me when I saw Grab, which is the Uber of Southeast Asia. I think they went public at like half the value of Uber, but half the value of Uber is huge.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like the Uber of Southeast Asia is almost as big as the Uber, of the world, because Uber's all over. I was like, okay, so there's a lot of opportunity here to be, to have tech startups that are growing and can get big. So since then, I've now invested in like a dozen, kind of different startups. I try to get them, the really good ones, I try to get them into Y Combinator, because Y Combinator is like the best startup accelerator in the world. If you've never done a startup before, I highly recommend going to Y Combinator. Really helps you learn, how to do a startup, and then they really kind of streamline and make it easy to fundraise as well. Most Y Combinator startups can go raise a seed pretty easily, and so Y Combinator started accepting a lot of these Philippine startups now.
Yep,
I think they've almost had a dozen companies, give or take. And so yeah, like I think really like what you said, there's a lot of like world class, kind of talent here that are they're good. They're good if you need employees or team members that want to help, or to do their own kind of startups as well. Yeah. All right, so we started this whole thing with like, is delegation a skill or is it like a personality trait? And I was like, it's definitely a skill you can learn. There is some personality traits that help it. Um, uh, you know, I'd like to, maybe we can wrap this up talking about some of the things that people have delegated to Magic. We were talking about some of our favorites earlier, and just kind of like, because this is like one of the things that I always run into when I explain Magic. Well, what do people use Magic for? And so I always like to like, kind of like, it's one of those things that, because it's a skill, like almost even using Magic is a skill. And so trying to give people as many ideas and just like, all right, what are some kind of some stuff you can delegate out? I don't know. I gave the example of selling Maiden Space. You gave the example of how it really helped support a business. I think we should talk a little bit about, some of the, because we help a lot of small businesses. Maybe you can talk a little about that. But I'll go high level on one of my favorite big ones. We helped one of our power users help them plan a proposal.
Oh,
yeah, like a wedding proposal. They had everything lined up. They got the venue, the hotel, the videographer, making sure that it was being recorded. The exact kind of moment, when it was there. And got it all on video. Helped make sure the ring was ready. It was just A to Z. We kind of helped them out.
She said yes, right?
She said yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
That would have been bad. That would be it's like, sorry, Magic. She said no. That would have been.
That's not her fault. Okay.
that would have been a sad ending. The venue wasn't good enough. No, just kidding. No, yeah, she said yes. And it was great. Setting the whole thing up. From A to Z. That's pretty exciting. Yeah. Another one. I think we helped coordinate like 1,000-person event. Now we didn't do the entire coordination. Of course, there was like an event coordinator, but they utilized just like 80% on the back end. Like again, like one of those things Magic's good at is helping identify things, like identifying a list of venues, identifying a list of places that could provide food, identifying caterers, identifying bus transportation, like really a bunch of the back end. They still needed an on-site coordinator, but Magic did like 80% of the work.
One thing that Magic does really well is work with professionals.
Yeah.
So, Magic is helping with your condo right now.
That's right.
They're working with a contractor for
right.
an event. They work with an event coordinator.
Yeah.
So it's that collaboration between Magic, a hired professional, and you that can really get huge, large scale projects done.
Yeah.
Very effortlessly.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, those are good examples.
That's some good examples. Yeah. What about you? Like, I like the small business examples you were saying some earlier that we've helped, like the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. I mean, sales is a really big one because, anytime you can help a company grow, that is huge because every company needs to grow. Growth is a company's lifeblood.
I find that where we're best on sales is the lead generation, right?
Yep. And qualification.
It's usually, it's harder for, like, depending on the product. If it's like a larger product, it's hard to hand off the closing to Magic. But like, if it's a small product, you can, like, let's say less than $100. But I find that the best users, like, maybe they have like a expensive like B2B product. They'll have us. Not it's not just B2B, but this is an example. They'll have us like identify a list of leads, or if they have a list of leads, and then they'll help email them and do basic, we call it sales assistant work, but it's often like SDR work, where they'll call the lead, email the lead, try to get them kind of spun up. And often they'll hand off, like, once it's a qualified lead, then they'll hand it off to like the entrepreneur.
Yep. They can do appointment setting. They can get the appointment on the calendar for.
That's right.
And for smaller companies, startups, the founder is the one that should be closing anyway. So a lot of times the founder will hire a couple SDRs with Magic. The SDR's goal is to fill their calendar full of calls, and then they'll get on the phone and close them.
Yeah, that's what their sales assistant does. And but that some users have even scaled that up to teams of hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds coming in, and that's actually where Magic really can become valuable with its when we say it's easy to add and take away people, because in a sales role, if you're just doing sales calls all the time, there is a higher churn of the employees in that role, and that's where we come in, is helping make sure you got
we're a hiring machine at this point.
Yes.
So
we've hired tens of thousands.
Yeah, if you need hundreds or even thousands of people, we can get that for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's end it on an exciting one. Any other final exciting magic moments, we like to call them, that come to mind for you? Or you want me to go?
Man, I've been doing this 8 years. It's hard to come up with with one thing.
What about, so you brought up in the beginning how Magic, you can hire EAs, but you can also chat with Magic 24/7.
Yeah, that's right.
That was our original service, and we still got it going, and now it's actually being enabled by AI. And so you can chat with Magic 24/7 and hand off tasks 24/7 at any point in time. What were your favorite Magic moments with people using the 24/7 kind of service?
Oh wow! I always remember Burning Man was insane. Every Burning Man, there were the logistics of getting supplies out there, getting things out there.
Oh yeah, Magic's the superpowers. Dropping things in right outside of Reno for people.
Yeah, we had some interesting tech executives ask for things at Burning Man we had to get last minute.
That's right. Yeah.
Just anything. I just remember. Honestly, it's not even like the big things. Like, I mean, we've gotten some ridiculous requests. Like, one we went viral for early on was like somebody asked for a tiger, and we found like the
The way to get a tiger.
Yeah, the way to get a like some Tiger King type person probably, or
Tiger King. This is before Tiger King took off. Like, people were like, "Hey, can I get a tiger to my house?" It's like, well, we figured it out.
We found the animal trainer or whatever that would do it.
Yeah.
But honestly, like it's not even really the big items. It's more like how it's needed. So, we've done like medical delivering medicine to people that were in need, that urgently needed a medication delivery. We delivered food for someone's sick mother, and so it's not even like, it's more the context around the request, I think, versus,
I love the things that are emotional. Like one of the ones that really stuck with me is like one time when one of our users, her kid loved Ninja Turtles. And on the kid's birthday, last minute, she's like, "Hey, can you get me a Ninja Turtle to show up to the house? It would just make my kid so happy." And we did. We were able to find somebody to come in a Ninja Turtle suit, and she sent in a photo of the kids. And was like, "Oh, you made them so happy." It was so cool, kind of seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's other examples, like I'm locked out of my house. I left my key and my wallet at a bar.
Oh, yeah. Those are
and my phone's at 5% battery.
The life-saving examples are always Magic has been a lifesaver for me at least a dozen times in situations, like that.
So I think it's more around the context. I think you really said it well earlier about how Magic's just kind of like a partner that you collaborate with throughout all of the little things. It's not like you have one big task that you send it.
That's right. It's your sidekick.
Yeah.
If we named it one thing, I'd call it sidekick. All right, man. Well, this has been great.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Glad we were able to do this today.
Yeah, same.
All right. Any final words?
No. Cheers, guys.